Wicked is a musical with music and lyrics by Stephen Schwartz and a book by Winnie Holzman. It is based on the 1995 Gregory Maguire novel Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West, a parallel novel of the 1939 film The Wizard of Oz and L. Frank Baum's 1900 classic story The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. The musical is told from the perspective of the witches of the Land of Oz. Its plot begins before and continues after Dorothy's arrival in Oz from Kansas and includes several references to the 1939 film and Baum's novel. Wicked tells the story of two unlikely friends, Elphaba and Glinda, who struggle through opposing personalities and viewpoints, rivalry over the same love interest, reactions to the wizard's corrupt government, and, ultimately, Elphaba's public fall from grace. Produced by Universal Studios in coalition with Mark Platt and David Stone, the Joe Mantello Euro-directed and Wayne Cilento Euro-choreographed original production of Wicked premiered on Broadway at the Gershwin Theatre in October 2003, after completing pre-Broadway tryouts at San Francisco's Current Theatre in May 2003. Its original stars included Idina Menzel as Elphaba, Kristin Chenoweth as Glinda, and Joel Grey as the Wizard. The original Broadway production won 3 Tony Awards and 6 Drama Desk Awards while its cast album received a Grammy Award. It celebrated its 10th anniversary on Broadway on October 30, 2013, and played for over 4,398 performances, making Wicked the 11th longest-running Broadway show in history. A typical performance runs for approximately 2 hours and 30 minutes, plus a 15-minute intermission. The success of the Broadway production has spawned several other productions worldwide, including various North American productions, a long-running Laurence Olivier Award Euro-nominated West End production and a series of international productions. Since its 2003 debut, Wicked has broken box office records around the world, currently holding weekly gross takings records in Los Angeles, Chicago, St. Louis, and London. In the week ending January 2, 2011, the London, Broadway, and both North American touring productions simultaneously broke their respective records for the highest weekly gross. In the final week of 2013, the Broadway production broke this record again, earning $3.2 million. The West End production and the North American tour have each been seen by over 2 million patrons. Inception and Development. Composer and lyricist Stephen Schwartz discovered writer Gregory Maguire's 1995 novel Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West while on vacation and saw its potential for a dramatic adaptation. Maguire, however, had released the rights to Universal, who had planned to develop a live-action feature film. Schwartz met Maguire in Connecticut in 1998 and persuaded him to release them for a stage production while making what Schwartz called an impassioned plea to Universal producer Mark Platt to realize his potential adaptation. Persuaded too, Platt signed on as joint producer of the project with Universal and David Stone. The novel, described as a political, social, and ethical commentary on the nature of good and evil, takes place in the Land of Oz, in the years leading to Dorothy's arrival. The story centers on Elphaba, the misunderstood, smart, and fiery girl of emerald green skin who grows up to become the notorious Wicked Witch of the West, and Glinda, the beautiful, blonde, popular girl who grows up to become Glinda the Good Witch of the North. The story is divided into 5 different sections based on the plot, location and presence events, characters and situations from L. Frank Baum's The Wonderful Wizard of Oz and its 1939 film adaptation in new ways. It is designed to set the reader thinking about what it really is to be wicked, and whether good intentions with bad results are the same as bad intentions with bad results. Schwartz considered how best to condense the novel's dense and complicated plot into a sensible script. To this end, he collaborated with Emmy Award Euro-winning writer Winnie Holzman to develop the outline of the plot over the course of a year while meeting with producer Mark Platt to refine the structural outline of the show, spinning an original stage piece rather than creating a strict adaptation of Maguire's work. While the draft followed Maguire's idea of retelling the story of the 1939 film from the perspective of its main villain, the storyline of the stage adaptation goes far afield from the novel. As Holzman observed in an interview with Playbill, it was Maguire's brilliant idea to take this hated figure and tell things from her point of view, and to have the two witches be roommates in college, but the way in which their friendship develops and really the whole plot is different on stage. Schwartz justified the deviation, saying primarily we were interested in the relationship between Glinda who becomes Glinda and Elphaba. The friendship of these two women and how their characters lead them to completely different destinies. In addition to this change in focus, other major plot modifications include Fire's appearance as the Scarecrow, Elphaba's survival at the end, Nessarose using a wheelchair instead of being born without arms, Bock having a continuing love interest for Glinda, and eventually becoming the Tin Woodman instead of Nick Chopper, the complete cutting of Elphaba's years in the Vincus, and Dr. Dillamond not being murdered. The book, lyrics, and score for the musical were developed through a series of readings. For these developmental workshops, Kristin Chenoweth, the Tony Award-winning actress whom Stephen Schwartz had in mind while composing the music for the character, joined the project as Glinda. Stephanie J. Block originally read the role of Elphaba before fellow performer Idina Menzel was cast in the role in late 2000. In early 2000, the creators recruited New York producer David Stone, who began the transition of the workshop production into a full Broadway production. Joe Mantello was brought in as director and Wayne Silento as choreographer, while Tony Award-winning designer Eugene Lee created the set and visual style for the production based on both W. W. Denlow's original illustrations for Baum's novels and Maguire's concept of the story being told through a giant clock. Costume designer Susan Hilferty created a twisted Edwardian style through more than 200 costumes, while lighting designer Kenneth Posner used more than 800 individual lights to give each of the 54 distinct scenes and locations its own mood. By April 2003, a full cast had been assembled and the show readied its public debut. On May 28, 2003, the first public performance of Wicked was held at the Current Theatre in San Francisco, as the start of SHN pre-Broadway tryouts. After officially opening on June 10, 2003, it ran there for the month and finished on June 29, 2003. Audience reaction was mostly positive, and although critics tended to compliment the aesthetic and spectacle of the show, they disparaged the state of its book, score and choreography. Dennis Harvey of Variety commented positively of the sleekly directed, snazzily designed, and smartly cast production, yet still disapproved of its mediocre book, trite lyrics and largely generic music, while Karen Sosa of the San Jose Mercury News wrote that style over substance is the real theme in this Emerald City. Noting mixed response, the creative team started making extensive changes, tweaking it before its transfer to Broadway. Winnie Holzman stated, "Stephen Schwartz wisely had insisted on having 3 months to rewrite in between the time we closed in San Francisco and when we were to go back into rehearsals in New York. That was crucial. That was the thing that made the biggest difference in the life of the show. That time is what made the show work." Elements of the book were rewritten while several songs underwent minor transformations. This included the excision of, "Which Way is the Party?" the introductory song to the character Figaro, which was subsequently replaced by Dancing Through Life in Schwartz's fear that the former failed to be a clear statement of Figaro's philosophy of life. In addition, there was concern that Menzel's Elphaba got a little overshadowed by Chenoweth's Glinda. San Francisco Chronicle critic Robert Howitt wrote, "Menzel's brightly intense Elphaba the Wicked Witch needs a chance of holding her own alongside Chenoweth's gloriously, insidiously bubbly Glinda, so the creative team set about making her character more prominent." On the subject of the Broadway revisions, Schwartz recalled, "It was clear there was work to be done and revisions to be made in the book and the score. The critical community was, frankly, very helpful to us. We learned a lot from the reviews, which were honest and constructive in the aggregate, unlike New York, where the critics make up their minds before they come to the theater." On October 30, 2003, the musical opened on Broadway. Plot: Act I. The citizens of Oz celebrate the death of the Wicked Witch of the West as Glinda arrives. She recalls that the green-skinned Elphaba, the Wicked Witch, was conceived during an affair between the Munchkin governor's wife and a mysterious stranger with a bottle of green elixir. Everyone was repulsed by Elphaba, and so Glinda asks the Ozians to empathize with her side of the story. The remainder of the plot forms an extended flashback of the lives of Glinda and Elphaba. The pair meet at Shiz University. Elphaba is reviled by all the students, including the popular but shallow Glinda. Elphaba was sent to Shiz to take care of her wheelchair-bound younger sister Nessa Rose. Despite Elphaba and Glinda's instant loathing, Madame Morrible, Shiz's headmistress, makes them roommates. Elphaba displays an innate magical talent, and Morrible notes that her talents may be of use to the Wizard of Oz. Elphaba dreams of what she and the wizard could accomplish together. Glinda and Elphaba later write home about their unfortunate roommate assignments. Dr. Dillamond, Shiz's only animal professor, confides in Elphaba that something is causing the animals of Oz to lose their powers of speech. Fiyero, a Winky prince, then arrives at Shiz and impresses his carefree living on the students. Besotted with Glinda, a munchkin named Bok asks her to accompany him to a party, but having fallen for Fiyero, Glinda asks him to invite Nessa Rose instead. Nessa Rose, not realizing Glinda's real motives, is delighted, and tells Elphaba what happened. Glinda discovers a black pointed hat and gives it to Elphaba as a mock present. Elphaba, remembering how happy Glinda had made Nessa Rose, asks Madame Morrible to reconsider Glinda's previous exclusion from her sorcery seminar. When Elphaba arrives at the party wearing the hat, she is ridiculed. Feeling guilty, Glinda dances with her, marking the start of their friendship. Elphaba's father hates her, Elphaba reveals, because her pregnant mother ate milk flowers to prevent her second child from being born green-skinned. The milk flowers instead caused Nessa Rose to be born prematurely, leaving her crippled while her mother died in childbirth. A sympathetic Glinda gives Elphaba a personality makeover. The next day, Dr. Dillamond is arrested. His replacement arrives with a lion cub as the subject of an experiment, kept in a cage that causes animals in it to lose their power of speech. Outraged, Elphaba and Fiyero set the cub free. Elphaba begins to discover romantic feelings towards Fiyero, but says that she wasn't born to be loved. Madame Morrible finds her, announcing that Elphaba has been granted an audience with the wizard in the Emerald City. Glinda, Fiyero, Nessa Rose and Bok see Elphaba off, all happy for her accomplishment. In an attempt to impress Fiyero, Glinda announces she will change her name to Glinda in honor of Dr. Dillamond, who had mispronounced her name that way. Fiyero fails to notice and leaves. Feeling bad for Glinda, Elphaba invites her along to see the wizard. After a day of bonding and sightseeing in the Emerald City, Elphaba and Glinda meet the wizard. Eschewing the special effects he employs for the benefit of most visitors, he invites Elphaba to join him. The wizard asks Elphaba to perform a levitation spell on his monkey servant, Kistri, using the Grimoire, an ancient book of spells. Elphaba demonstrates an intrinsic understanding of the lost language in the book, and gives Kistri wings. When Elphaba sees he seems to be in pain and demands they show her how to reverse the spell, Morrible tells her that spells are irreversible. The wizard then reveals a cage full of winged monkeys, proving the extent of Elphaba's powers. He says they will make perfect spies. Elphaba now realizes he was the one who robbed the animals of their speech and created the cages. The wizard wants Elphaba to join him in creating a really good enemy for the Ozians, using her powers. Elphaba takes the Grimoire and runs away with Glinda. Realizing that she knows too much about his plans, the wizard sends Morrible and his guards after Elphaba and Glinda. They hear Morrible warning all of Oz of this wicked witch, and her horrible deed to the innocent monkeys. Elphaba and Glinda now must choose which path their lives will take. Ultimately, Glinda chooses to take a life living with the wizard and becoming a public figure within Oz. Elphaba, however, decides to use her newly learned powers to stand against the wizard and do what she believes is right. Elphaba accepts her friend's choice and they wish each other the best. Elphaba uses the Grimoire to place a levitation spell on a broom and flies away from the palace guards when they break into the attic she and Glinda had barricaded themselves in. This public act of defiance convinces the Ozians that she is truly wicked. Act 2. A few months later, Elphaba's opposition of the wizard's regime has earned her the title the Wicked Witch of the West. Informing him that Elphaba does not want to be found, Glinda puts on a happy front despite Firero's waning affections. Meanwhile, Elphaba arrives at her old home, the governor's residence in Munchkinland, seeking refuge. Nessarose, now the governor, criticizes Elphaba for not using her powers to help her. Guilty, Elphaba enchants Nessarose's shoes, turning them into the ruby slippers and enabling her to walk. Boq bemoans that Nessarose is as wicked as Elphaba for stripping the Munchkins of their rights and prohibiting them from leaving Munchkinland. Nessarose explains that she did this to keep Boq with her, but is sure that he will stay with her of his own accord now that she is no longer crippled. However, Boq insists that he should now be free to pursue Glinda instead. Hurt and angry, Nessarose attempts to cast a spell from the Grimoire to make Boq fall in love with her. However, the spell backfires, causing Boq to literally lose his heart. While Elphaba attempts to save him, Nessarose reflects on how being alone and loveless has led to her wicked actions, and fears that she deserves her new title. Elphaba says that nothing will ever be enough for her sister and leaves her for good, despite Nessarose's frantic pleas for her to stay. When Boq wakes up, he is horrified to discover that Elphaba has transformed him into a tin man, so he could live without a heart, and Nessarose lays the entire blame on her sister while Boq runs away in horror. Returning to the wizard's palace, Elphaba tries to free the remaining winged monkeys. The wizard attempts to regain her favor by agreeing to set them free, recounting how the Ozians hailed him as the wonderful wizard when he first came to Oz. He says that she could be hailed by everyone if she joins him. Elphaba rejects his offer upon discovering the now speechless Dr. Dillamond amongst the monkeys. While attempting to escape, she bumps into Fiyero, who runs away with her, confirming that he loves her in return. Glinda sees this and is crestfallen that she had been betrayed by those closest to her. When Glinda states that Elphaba can be lured by spreading a rumor that Nessarose is in danger, Madame Morrible creates a cyclone that brings Dorothy's house to us and crashes Nessarose to death. During this, Fiyero and Elphaba express their love, but Elphaba senses that her sister is in danger. Before she rushes to help, Fiyero explains to Elphaba that his family has an empty castle far away. He promises her she can hide there and that he will go to join her. She flies to Nessarose, but is too late. Dorothy has since taken the slippers and is walking to us with her dog Toto. The palace guards capture Elphaba, but Fiyero intervenes, allowing Elphaba to escape before surrendering himself and taken away to a cornfield to be tortured unless he tells them where Elphaba is. At the castle, Elphaba tries to cast any spell she can to prevent Fiyero the pains of torture, transforming him into the Scarecrow from afar, but suspecting that she has failed, begins to accept her reputation as wicked. Dorothy, Toto, the Scarecrow, Boq now the Tin Man and the Cowardly Lion, who is revealed to be the lion cub Elphaba set free, are sent to kill Elphaba and bring her broomstick to the wizard. Elphaba captures Dorothy, refusing to release her until she relinquishes Nessarose's ruby slippers, the only things left of her dead sister. Glinda travels to Elphaba's castle to warn her of the trouble and persuade her to let Dorothy go. Although Elphaba refuses, the two women forgive each other for all grievances, acknowledging they have both made mistakes. To help her in her future, Elphaba gives the Grimoire to Glinda. The two friends embrace for the last time before saying goodbye forever, and acknowledge that they are who they are because they knew each other. Immediately afterward, Dorothy throws a bucket of water on Elphaba, who appears to melt away. Grief-stricken, Glinda sees that all that remains of her friend is her black cat and a vial of green elixir. Back at the Emerald City, Glinda reminds the wizard that he has an identical bottle, and it is revealed that the wizard is Elphaba's biological father, being the stranger with whom her mother had an affair. Madame Morrible surmises that Elphaba had special powers because she was a child of both Oz and the outside world. Glinda orders the wizard to leave Oz and sends Madame Morrible to prison before returning to the opening scene of the show. Meanwhile, Fiyero opens a trapdoor in Elphaba's castle, down which she had descended, only pretending to die. Elphaba and Fire leave Oz forever, while Glinda continues her bittersweet celebration with the citizens of Oz, individually appreciating their true friendship and acknowledging that they have changed for the better because they knew each other. Current casts. Musical numbers, tryout, Broadway, a per-mill not included on the original Broadway cast recording. Music and recordings, music analysis. The score of Wicked is heavily thematic, bearing in some senses more resemblance to a film score than a traditional musical score. While many musical scores employ new motifs and melodies for each song with little overlap, Schwartz integrated a handful of leitmotifs throughout the production. Some of these motifs indicate irony. For example, when Glinda presents Elphaba with a ghastly hat and dancing through life, the score reprises a theme from What Is This Feeling? A few scenes earlier, in which Elphaba and Glinda had espoused their mutual loathing. Two musical themes in Wicked run throughout the score. Although Schwartz rarely reuses motifs or melodies from earlier works, the first Elphaba's theme came from The Survival of St. Joan, on which he worked as musical director. "I always liked this tune a lot and I never could figure out what to do with it," he remarked in an interview in 2004. The chord progression that he first penned in 1971 became a major theme of the show's orchestration. By changing the instruments that carry the motif in each instance, Schwartz enables the same melody to convey different moods. In the Overture, the tune is carried by the orchestra's brass section, with heavy percussion. The result is, in Schwartz's own words, like a giant shadow terrorizing you. When played by the piano with some electric bass in As Long As You're Mine, however, the same chord progression becomes the basis for a romantic duet. And with new lyrics and an altered bridge, the theme forms the core of the song No One Mourns the Wicked, and its reprises. Schwartz uses the Unlimited theme as the second major motif running through the score. Although not included as a titled song, the theme appears as an interlude in several of the musical numbers. In a tribute to Harold Arlen, who wrote the score for the 1939 film Adaptation, the Unlimited melody incorporates the first 7 notes of the song Over the Rainbow. Schwartz included it as an inside joke as, according to copyright law, when you get to the 8th note, then people can come and say, "Oh, you stole our tune." And of course obviously it's also disguised in that it's completely different rhythmically. And it's also harmonized completely differently, it's over a different chord and so on, but still it's the first 7 notes of Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Schwartz further obscured the motif's origin by setting it in a minor key in most instances. This also creates contrast in the songs in which it forms a part, for example in Defying Gravity, which is written primarily in the key of D-flat major. In the song The Wicked Witch of the East, however, when Elphaba finally uses her powers to let her sister walk, the Unlimited theme is played in a major key. Recordings. A cast recording of the original Broadway production was released on December 16, 2003, by Universal Music. All of the songs featured on stage are present on the recording with the exception of The Wizard and I, and The Wicked Witch of the East. The short reprise of No One Mourns the Wicked that opens Act 2 is attached to the beginning of Thank Goodness. The music was arranged by Stephen Schwartz, who was also the conductor and musical director, and James Lynn Abbott, with orchestrations by William David Braun. The recording received the Grammy Award for Best Musical Show Album in 2005 and was certified platinum by the RIAA on November 30, 2006. The album was certified double platinum on November 8, 2010. A 5th anniversary special edition of the original Broadway cast recording was released on October 28, 2008, with a bonus CD including tracks from the Japanese and German cast recordings, Making Good a song later replaced by The Wizard and I sung by Stephanie J. Block with Schwartz at the piano, I'm Not That Girl by Kerry Ellis, Menzel's dance mix of Defying Gravity, and For Good sung by LaAnn Rimes and Delta Goodrem. A German recording of the Stuttgart production was released on December 7, 2007, featuring a track listing and arrangements identical to those of the Broadway recording. The Japanese cast recording was released on July 23, 2008, featuring the original Tokyo cast. It is notable for being the only cast album of the show that includes Glinda's finale dialogue. Orchestration, Productions, Original Broadway production. Wicked officially opened on June 10, 2003 at the Current Theatre in San Francisco, after previews began on May 28, in a pre-Broadway tryout presented by SHN. The cast included Kristin Chenoweth as Glinda, Idina Menzel as Elphaba, Joel Grey as the Wizard, Norbert Leo Butz as Figaro, Michelle Federer as Nessa Rose, Carol Shelley as Madame Morrible, John Horton as Dr. Dillamond, and Kirk MacDonald as Bock, while Stephanie J. Block, who originally read the role of Elphaba in workshop development, served as an ensemble member and understudied the lead role. The tryout closed on June 29, 2003, and after extensive retooling, the musical began previews on Broadway at the Gershwin Theatre on October 8, 2003, and made its official premiere on October 30. Most of the original production team and cast members remained with the show, with the exception of some minor ensemble changes and the replacement of Robert Morse with Joel Grey as the Wizard, John Horton with William Youmans as Dr. Dillamond and Kirk MacDonald with Christopher Fitzgerald as Bock, while Eden Espinosa and Laura Bell Bundy were added as standbys for Elphaba and Glinda respectively. When Saken Selblo became the standby for Elphaba in January 2005, she became the first African-American woman to play the role of Elphaba. Since then, 5 other black women have either played or covered the role, with Kadime being the first, and so far only, to play Elphaba full-time. Willemij Verkerk, who created the role of Elphaba for German and Dutch audiences, joined the Broadway production for a limited time from February–May 2013, becoming the first actress to have appeared in 3 different language productions. She then transferred to the London West End company of Wicked, where she is currently starring. Other North American productions: in 2005, the first national tour of Wicked started in Toronto, Ontario, and has since visited numerous cities throughout the United States and Canada. Stephanie J. Block was set to open the tour as Elphaba with previews beginning March 8, but after having sustained a minor injury in rehearsal, Christy Katz temporarily took her place. Previews were therefore postponed until the following day. After some delay, Block made her debut on March 25, and the tour officially opened on March 31. The original touring cast also included Kendra Cassabaum as Glinda, Derek Williams as Figaro, Jenna Lee Green as Nessa Rose, Carol Kane as Madame Morrible, Timothy Britton Parker as Dr. Dillamond, Logan Lipton as Bock, and David Garrison as the Wizard. While the original touring cast intended to play a limited engagement from April 29 to June 12, 2005 at the Oriental Theatre in Chicago, producers decided to extend it to an open-ended run, making it the first non-Broadway sit-down production of Wicked. Opening at the same Chicago theatre the day after the touring production had finished, the original Chicago cast included Alma Gastia as Elphaba, Kate Reinders as Glinda, Rondi Reed as Madame Morrible, Christopher Cusick as Figaro, Telly Lung as Bock, Heidi Kettenring as Nessa Rose and Jean Wiegand as the Wizard. The production closed on January 25, 2009, after over 1,500 performances. The touring production returned to Chicago for a special engagement at the Cadillac Palace Theatre from December 1, 2010 to January 23, 2011. In celebration of the musical's 10th anniversary, the tour played an 8-week return engagement at the Ford Center for the Performing Arts Oriental Theatre from October 30 through December 21, 2013. Former West End cast member Gina Beck joined the company on December 16, recreating her role of Glinda, and making her the first international actress to play the role on both sides of the Atlantic. An open-ended production also appeared in Los Angeles, California at the Pantages Theatre. Performances began on February 10, 2007, with an official opening on February 21. Megan Hilty and original Broadway standby Eden Espinosa were Glinda and Elphaba respectively, while Carol Kane was Madame Morrible, Timothy Britton Parker was Dr. Dillamond, Jenna Lee Green was Nessa Rose, Adam Wiley was Bock, Christopher Cusick was Figaro, and John Rubinstein was the Wizard. The production closed on January 11, 2009, after 791 performances and 12 previews. The first national touring production returned to the Pantages Theatre for a limited engagement from November 30, 2011 until January 29, 2012. This LA production was also featured in Something Wicked This Way Comes, a 2007 episode of Ugly Betty, as the Broadway production of Wicked, which is a major setting and plot point of the episode. A San Francisco production of Wicked officially opened February 6, 2009, at SHN's Orpheum Theatre, following previews from January 27. The cast included Tia Wicks as Elphaba, Kendra Cassabaum as Glinda, Nicholas Dramard as Figaro, Carol Kane as Madame Morrible, David Garrison as the Wizard, Dee Dee Magno Hall as Nessa Rose, Tom Flynn as Dr. Dillamond, and Eddie Rosecco as Bock. The production closed on September 5, 2010, after 672 performances and 12 previews with Marcy Dodd as Elphaba and Ali Morsey as Glinda. The first national touring company most recently ended their second San Francisco engagement at the Orpheum Theatre, which ran January 23 – February 17, 2013. The second national tour of Wicked began in 2009 with previews on March 7 and official opening night on March 12 at the Barbara B. Mann Performing Arts Hall in Fort Myers, Florida. Like the first, this touring production has since visited numerous cities throughout North America. The original cast starred Marcy Dodd as Elphaba, Helene York as Glinda, Colin Donnell as Figaro, Christine Reese as Nessa Rose, Marilyn Kaiski as Madame Morrible, David DeVries as Dr. Dillamond, Ted Ely as Bock and Tom McGowan as the Wizard. London. The West End production began previews at the Apollo Victoria Theatre from September 7, 2006, and officially opened on September 27. The production is currently booking until April 25, 2015 and celebrated its 5th anniversary in 2011 with a special curtain call featuring former West End cast members. On June 3, 2014, the production became the 10th longest-running show in the West End. The London production was tailored slightly for a British audience, including minor creative changes to dialogue, choreography and special effects. A majority of these changes were later incorporated into all productions of Wicked. The West End production reunited the show's original creative team with Idina Menzel, who had originated the role of Elphaba in the Broadway production. Original London cast members included Helen Dallimore as Glinda, Miriam Margolyes as Madame Morrible, Adam Garcia as Figaro, Martin Ball as Dr. Dillamond, James Gillan as Bock, Katie Rowley-Jones as Nessa Rose and Nigel Planer as the Wizard. After her limited engagement, Menzel was succeeded by Kerry Ellis, who became the first British woman to assume the role of Elphaba, and the following year, the second actress to play Elphaba in both the Broadway and West End productions. Every replacement Elphaba in the West End have been a landmark in the show's history. Ellis' replacement Alexia Kedine was the first black woman to have played Elphaba full-time. Her replacement, Rachel Tucker, became the longest-running London Elphaba, playing the role for over 2.5 years upon her departure. Louise Dearman then took over as Elphaba, making her the first person in the musical's history to play both female leads, having played Glinda in the production from 2010-11. Dutch actress Willemijn Verkerk, marking her 4th country in which she has performed the show, took over from Dearman, making her the 3rd actress to have played the role on Broadway and on the West End. Due to Verkerk having to cut her run short, it was announced that Kerry Ellis would return to the role in a limited 12-week engagement. Nikki Davis-Jones will then take over as Elphaba, making her one of 2 women to have played the lead role in both the West End and the UK touring production. Similarly, former London standby Ashley Gray is to replace Davis-Jones on the tour. UK and Ireland Tour. The show began its first national tour of the UK and Ireland on September 12, 2013 at the Palace Theatre in Manchester, where it is played to November 16 to sold-out crowds. It will visit Dublin from November 27, 2013. Other cities it will visiting in 2014 are Milton Keynes, Cardiff, Glasgow, Leeds, Birmingham, Liverpool, Southampton and Edinburgh. In 2015, the tour will visit Plymouth, Bristol, Sunderland and Aberdeen, before concluding in Salford on July 25, 2015. The cast comprises former West End standby Nicky Davies-Jones in the lead role of Elphaba, with Emily Tierney as Glinda, Liam Doyle as Fiyero, Marilyn Cutts as Madame Morrible, Corina Gillespie as Nessa Rose and Giorgio reprising his role of Bock from the West End production. For the first time, the roles of the Wizard and Dr. Dillamond are being played by a single actor, Dale Rapley. The only other actor to play both roles in a single performance was David Stoller, but this was only due to the absence of several actors. Former London standby Ashley Gray is take over as Elphaba for the tour's second contract run, making her the second actress, after Davies-Jones, to have played the role in both the West End and the UK touring production. Davies-Jones is leaving in order to return to the London company and led its cast. Subsequent international productions, a condensed 30-minute version of the musical played at Universal Studios Japan in Osaka, Japan. Australian Gemma Rix was part of the original cast, alternating the role of Elphaba with Gillian Giorgi and Taylor Jordan. The show, which opened on July 12, 2006, featured the preliminary storyline of Act 1 but Fiyero, Madame Morrible, Bock, Nessa Rose and Dr. Dillamond were absent and there were considerable changes in sets and costumes. The final performance took place on January 11, 2011. The first replicated non-English production opened in Tokyo, Japan, on June 17, 2007 with Hamada Megumi as Elphaba and Namao Miyuki as Glinda. The production closed on September 6, 2009, in preparation for its transfer to Osaka. After opening on October 11, 2009, the Osaka production closed on February 13, 2011, featuring Ebita Musi as Elphaba with Tomoda Asako as Glinda. The production then moved again to Fukuoka on April 2, 2011 where its original stars were Ebita Musi and Namao Miyuki. After its closure in Fukuoka on August 28, 2011, the production relocated to Nagoya with performances beginning September 23. It starred Masi Ebita and Asako Tomoda as Elphaba and Glinda, respectively. Wicked reopened in Tokyo at the Dentsushiki Theatre on August 3, 2013. The production will close on November 16, 2014. Renamed Wicked, Die Hexen von Oz, the German production of Wicked began previews on November 1, 2007 and opened on November 15, at the Palladium Theatre in Stuttgart. Williemage Verkerk played Elphaba, Lucy Schurer played Glinda, Mark Sabert played Fiyero, Angelica Wiedekind was Madame Morrible, Nicole Radeshnik was Nessa Rose, Stefan Stera was Bock, Michael Gunter was Dr. Dillamond, and Carlo Lauber played the Wizard. The production closed on January 29, 2010, and transferred to Oberhausen where previews began at the Metronome Theatre im Centro on March 5, 2010, with an opening night of March 8. The cast featured Williemage Verkerk as Elphaba, Jonah Fiwa as Glinda, Barbara Rawneger as Madame Morrible, Matthias Edenborn as Fiyero, Janine Tippl as Nessa Rose, Ben Dalmanin as Bock, Thomas Wisman as Dr. Dillamond, and Carlo Lauber as the Wizard. Williemage Verkerk left the role of Elphaba in February 2011, after being consistently billed as lead for almost 3.5 years between the Stuttgart and Oberhausen productions. The Oberhausen production closed on September 2, 2011. An Australian production officially opened on July 12, 2008, with previews commencing June 27 at the Regent Theatre in Melbourne. Amanda Harrison and Lucy Durack played Elphaba and Glinda respectively, with Maggie Kirkpatrick as Madame Morrible, Rob Guest as the Wizard, Rob Mills as Fiyero, Anthony Callier as Bock, Penny McNamee as Nessa Rose and Rodney Dobson as Dr. Dillamond. However, Rob Guest, who played the Wizard, died suddenly on October 2, 2008, after suffering a stroke 2 days earlier. Australian personality Bert Newton was brought in as his replacement 6 weeks later. In addition, Carmen Cusack, from the first North American tour and Chicago companies, made her Australian debut as the temporary standby for Elphaba while Amanda Harrison was on extended leave and regular standby Gemma Rix was performing as lead. The Melbourne production closed on August 9, 2009, after 464 performances. The production then transferred to Sydney's Capitol Theatre. Previews began there on September 5, 2009, with the official opening on September 12, 2009. Most of the Melbourne cast transferred, but understudy James D. Smith took over as Bock. The production closed on September 26, 2010, after 412 performances and 8 previews. Following successful seasons in Melbourne and Sydney, an Australian tour began at the QPAC Lyric Theatre in Brisbane. After a 2-week delay due to the Queensland floods, performances began January 25, 2011, and ran until April 2. The touring production then moved to the Festival Centre in Adelaide, running from April 14 until June 4, 2011, and played its final leg at the Burswood Theatre in Perth, starting on June 19, 2011. The cast included Sydney Alamy Lucy Durack as Glinda, Gemma Rix as Elphaba, Maggie Kirkpatrick as Madame Morrible, Bert Newton as the Wizard, Eliza Collar as Nessa Rose, Rodney Dobson as Dr. Dillamond, and James D. Smith as Bock, while wicked newcomer David Harris plays Fiyero. The Perth engagement finished on September 11, 2011, wrapping up more than 3 years of performances in Australia. The Australian company then transferred to Singapore's Grand Theatre in Marina Bay Sands from December 6, 2011 onwards, beginning an open-ended Asian tour. Gemma Rix played Elphaba on the tour, while Australian understudy Susie Mathers took over as Glinda. They were joined by David Harris, Bert Newton, James D. Smith and Eliza Collar, with wicked newcomers Glenn Hogstrom and Anne Wood. After the Singapore engagement of the tour closed April 22, 2012, performances began in Seoul, Korea from May 31, 2012. Hogstrom took over the role of the Wizard after the departure of Newton, while Dr. Dillamond was played by Nathan Carter, who had previously understudied the role. After being extended twice, the run finished on October 7, 2012. A brand new production, notable for not being a replica of the original Broadway staging, opened at the City Theatre in Helsinki, Finland on August 26, 2010 after a preview performance took place on August 24. Directed by Hans Berntsen, the production stars Maria Ilipa-Currency as Elphaba, Anna Major-Chuoko as Glinda, Tuka Lepa-Currency Nen as Fiyero, Ursula Salo as Madame Morrible, Vuoko Hovata as Nessa Rose, Auntie Lang as Bock, Hiyuki Sankari as Dr. Dillamond, and Eero Saarinen as the Wizard. The second non-replicated production ran in Copenhagen, Denmark from January 12 until May 29, 2011, and was presented by Det Nye Teater. The cast included Annette Eek as Glinda, Maria Lucia Heiberg Rosenberg as Elphaba, John Martin Bengtsson as Fiyero, Marianne Mortensen as Madame Morrible, Anais Lucan as Nessa Rose, Kim Himmelsvang Henriksen as Bock, Christian Boland as Dr. Dillamond, and Steen Springborg as the Wizard. A Dutch-language production began previews at the Circus Theatre in Scheveningen, the Netherlands on October 26, 2011. The official opening took place on November 6. Willemij Verkerk reprises her role of Elphaba from the German productions, becoming the first actress to play the role in 2 different languages. She is joined by Chantal Jansen as Glinda, Jim Backham as Fiyero, Pamela Teeves as Madame Morrible, Christian de Bruage as Nessa Rose, Niels Jacobs as Bock, Joachim Fest Rosamund as Dr. Dillamond, and Bill van Dijk in the role of the Wizard. As musicals do not usually run for a long open-ended run in the Netherlands, closing night took place as announced on January 11, 2013, following a 14-month run. The musical made its New Zealand premiere on September 21, 2013 as the beginning of an Australasian national tour. The Auckland run concluded on November 24, 2013, where it played the Civic Theatre. Gemma Rix and Susie Mathers return as Elphaba and Glinda, respectively, with Star Wars star Jay Lugaya as the Wizard. Rounding out the cast is Steve Danielson as Fiyero, Emily Cascarino as Nessa Rose, Edward Gray as Bock, as well as Glenn Hogstrom and Maggie Kirkpatrick, who returned to their roles as Dr. Dillamond and Madame Morrible, respectively. The Australasia cast, starring Gemma Rix and Susie Mathers, performed for the first time at the main theatre of the Cultural Centre of the Philippines in Manila on a limited run starting January 22, 2014. The Manila run ended on March 9 after having been extended from its original closing date of February 23. The production opened at the Regent Theatre in Melbourne on May 10, 2014, and this is to be followed by stints in Sydney later in 2014 and Brisbane in 2015. Lucy Durack has returned to her role as Glinda for the Australian production, and Reg Livermore is the Wizard. The first Spanish-language production opened in Mexico City, Mexico on October 17, 2013, following previews from October 10. Produced by OCESA Teatro, the replica production plays at the Teatro Telsol. Former child star, Dana Paler, shares the role of Elphaba with Ana Cecilia Anzalea, making the 18-year-old Paler the youngest actress in history to take on the role. They are both joined by Cecilia de la Cueva as Glinda, Jorge Lau as Fiyero, Ana Hialua copyright as Madame Morrible, Marisol Means as Nessa Rose, Adam Sadwing as Bock and Beto Torres as Dr. Dilamond. Eugenio Montesoro was originally cast as the Wizard, but was replaced during previews by Paco Morales, for unknown reasons. The first Korean-language production began performances in Seoul on November 22, 2013 and is an all-new replica production. Film adaptation. A film adaptation of Wicked has been in talks since 2004, though producers have been waiting for a dip in the stage musical's earnings. In July 2012, it was reported that Universal Studios, who were producing the film, was taking steps forward to its realization. The company sought Stephen Daldry to direct the film while employing Winnie Holzman, who wrote the musical's book, to pen the screenplay. In December 2012, Mark Platt said that development of a film adaptation will happen soon. While a film adaptation of the musical has been talked about for some time, it has been slow in production. No casting or further members of the creative team have been announced. There is no start date or release date set for the film. In February 2013, Universal Pictures chairman, Adam Figelson, said that due to the success of Les Mis copyright labels, a film adaptation might happen sooner rather than later. In May 2014, while on Watch What Happens, Live, Idina Menzel stated that she and Kristin Chenoweth had been told they were too old to reprise their roles. Response, awards and nominations. The original Broadway production of Wicked was nominated for 10 Tony Awards in 2004, including Best Musical. Book. Orchestrations. Original Score. Choreography. Costume Design. Lighting Design. Scenic Design. While receiving 2 nominations for Best Actress for Menzel and Chenoweth. Menzel won the Best Actress award, and the show also won the Tony Awards for Best Scenic Design and Best Costume Design, notably losing Best Book, Original Score and ultimately Best Musical to Avenue Q. The same year, the show won 6 Drama Desk Awards out of 11 nominations, including Outstanding Musical, Book, Director and Costume Design, in addition to winning 4 Outer Critics Circle Awards out of 10 nominations. The original Broadway cast recording also received the 2005 Grammy Award for Best Musical Show Album. Since its opening in 2003, the Broadway production of Wicked has accrued 32 awards out of 63 nominations, being consecutively nominated every year for at least 1 award. Similarly, subsequent productions of the musical have equated in abundant success. The North American tours have garnered 12 awards out of 14 nominations, while the Chicago production was nominated for 5 Joseph Jefferson Awards. The West End production has received 5 Laurence Olivier Award nominations, and despite not winning any in 2007, it won the Audience Award for Most Popular Show at the 2010 awards ceremony. The original Australian production received 6 Hultman Awards out of 12 nominations, including Best Musical. Wicked was named the Best Musical of the Decade by Entertainment Weekly magazine and hailed a cultural phenomenon by Variety magazine. While not technically an award, the character of Elphaba was named 79th on Entertainment Weekly's list of the 100 greatest characters of the past 20 years. Critical reception. The Broadway production opened on October 30, 2003, to mixed reviews from theatre critics. Menzel and Chenoweth received nearly unanimous praise for their performances as Elphaba and Glinda. Both USA Today and Time magazine gave the Broadway production of Wicked very positive reviews, with Richard Zoglin of Time saying, "If every musical had a brain, a heart and the courage of Wicked, Broadway really would be a magical place." Eliza Gardner of USA Today described it as the most complete, and completely satisfying, new musical I've come across in a long time. Conversely, Ben Brantley in the New York Times loved the production but panned the show itself, calling it a sermon that so overplays its hand that it seriously dilutes its power, with a generic score. He noted that Glinda is such a showy role that the audience ends up rooting for her rather than the surprisingly colorless Elphaba, who is nominally the hero. Despite these mixed reviews, interest in Wicked spread quickly by word of mouth, leading to record-breaking success at the box office, as described below. Speaking to the Arizona Republic in 2006, Schwartz commented, "What can I say? Reviews are reviews. I know we divided the critics. We didn't divide the audience, and that's what counts." International productions have opened to similarly ambivalent critical reception. The West End production opened to a slightly more upbeat response. The majority of critics have appreciated the spectacle of the lavish production, and the powerhouse performances of actors in the roles of the two witches. However, contemporaries have characterized the production as overblown, occasionally preachy, and suffering from more hype than heart. Although Charles Spencer of the Daily Telegraph described it as at times a bit of a mess, he praised Holzman's script, described Kenneth Posner's lighting design as magical, and lauded Menzel's Elphaba and Helen Dallamore's Glinda. Michael Billington of The Guardian gave it 3 out of 5 stars and remarked on the competence of all the lead actors. However, he complained that Wicked was all too typical of the modern Broadway musical, efficient, knowing and highly professional but more like a piece of industrial product than something that genuinely touches the heart or mind. Paul Taylor of The Independent gave extremely negative remarks to his viewing of the London production, calling the attempt at topical political allegory well-meaning but also melodramatic, incoherent and dreadfully superficial while deploring the acting, songs and book, concluding that the production manages to feel at once overblown and empty. Commercial reception. Since its opening in 2003, the original Broadway production of Wicked has broken the house record at the Gershwin Theatre 20 times. It regularly grosses in excess of $1.6 million each week, making it one of the most lucrative productions on Broadway. With a $14 million capitalization, the Broadway production took 15 months to break even, earning back its initial investment by December 21, 2004. In its first year, it grossed more than $56 million. In the week ending January 1, 2006, Wicked broke the record, previously held by the musical The Producers, for the highest weekly box office gross in Broadway history, earning $1,610,934. It has gone on to break its own record numerous times, reaching $1,715,155 in November 2006, $1,839,950 during the 2007 Christmas week, $2,086,135 for the week ending November 29, 2009, $2,125,740 just a few weeks later for the 8 performances ending January 3, 2010, and over $2.2 million in the week ending January 2, 2011. In the first week of 2012, the Broadway production broke a record again, earning $2.7 million. Wicked once again broke this record in the final week of 2012 when it grossed $2.9 million. In the final weekend of 2013, Wicked became the first musical to gross $3 million in one week. Wicked's productions across North America and abroad have been equally financially successful. The Los Angeles production took the local weekly gross record, again from a performance of The Producers, bringing in $1,786,110 in the week ending March 4, 2007. The production joined its Broadway counterpart in setting a new record over Christmas 2007 with $1,949,968, with records also set in Chicago and St. Louis. to bring the collective gross of the 7 worldwide productions to a world record-breaking $11.2 million. A new suite of records were set over Christmas 2010, with house records broken in San Francisco, Providence and Schenectady as well as Broadway, bringing the musical's one-week gross in North America alone to $7,062,335. Wicked played to more than 2 million visitors in Chicago with a gross of over $200 million, making it the highest-grossing show in Chicago history by June 2007. With an opening week gross of $1,400,000, it continually set records and became the longest-running Broadway musical in Chicago history. Producer David Stone told Variety, "We thought the Chicago production would run 18 months, then we'd spend a year in Los Angeles and 6 months in San Francisco. But sales stayed so strong that the producers created another road show and kept the show running in Chicago." In addition, over 2.2 million saw the touring production in its first 2 years, which grossed over $155 million. The Los Angeles production grossed over $145 million and was seen by more than 1.8 million patrons. Over the 672 performances of the San Francisco production, Wicked sold over 1 million tickets with a cumulative gross of over $75 million. While the Broadway production of Wicked welcomed its 5 millionth audience member on September 29, 2010. International productions of Wicked have matched the extremely positive reception at the box office. Although West End theatres do not publish audited weekly grosses, the West End production of Wicked claimed to take the record for highest one-week gross in December 2006, taking £761,000 in the week ending December 30. On June 23, 2008, the producers reported that over 1.4 million people had seen the London production since its opening, and grosses had topped £50 a million. The same report stated that the show has consistently been one of the 2 highest-grossing shows in the West End. For the week commencing December 27, 2010, the London production grossed £1,002,885, the highest single-week gross in West End theatre history, with over 20,000 theatregoers attending the 9 performances of Wicked that week. The Melbourne production broke Australian box office records, selling 24,750 tickets in 3 hours during pre-sales and grossing over $1.3 a million on the first business day after its official opening. On April 27, 2009, the production passed the milestone of 500,000 patrons. When it transferred to Sydney, the production broke all previous weekly box office records for a musical at the Capitol Theatre, grossing $1,473,775.70 in 1 week during October 2009. In the week ending October 17, 2010, Wicked became only the 3rd musical in Broadway history to exceed $500 a million in total gross. By seats sold on Broadway, it ranks 10th of all time. As of September 2011, Wicked's North American and international companies have cumulatively grossed nearly $2.5 billion and have been seen by nearly 30 million people worldwide. The original production still runs today and currently stands as the 11th longest-running Broadway show in history. Wicked celebrated its 1,000th performance on Broadway on March 23, 2006. Several other productions have also reached the 1,000th performance milestone, including the first North American touring company on August 15, 2007, the Chicago Company on November 14, 2007, the West End Company on February 14, 2009, the Australian Company on May 7, 2011 and the second North American Touring Company on August 4, 2011. Behind the Emerald Curtain, the success of the Broadway production has led to the development of an auxiliary show, Behind the Emerald Curtain, created by Sean McCourt, an original Broadway production cast member who played the witch's father, among other roles, in addition to understudying the Wizard and Dr. Dillamond, before taking over the latter principal role and Anthony Golder, who was a long-running swing in the Broadway company from 2004 to 2012. The tour features a 90-minute behind-the-scenes look at the props, masks, costumes and sets used in the show, and includes a question-and-answer session with the cast members. The Broadway tour is currently led by McCourt and long-running ensemble member and Glinda understudy Lindsay K. Norton. The tour also featured in the Los Angeles, San Francisco and Chicago sit-down productions, and were each run by different long-serving cast members of the show. The tour provides a behind-the-scenes look at what goes into putting on the show every day. Participants get a first-hand account of what it is like to be a part of the massive production that Wicked is. In popular culture, the success of Wicked has made several of the show's songs popular and has resulted in references to the show, characters, and songs in popular culture. The Broadway production has been featured in episodes of television programs, including Brothers and Sisters and The War at Home while, for filming purposes, the Pantages Theatre in Los Angeles doubled for the Gershwin Theatre on Broadway in an episode of Ugly Betty titled Something Wicked This Way Comes, where Betty, the show's protagonist, goes to see Wicked on a date and accidentally stops the show. In the episode previous to this, Brothers, Betty gets tickets to see Wicked and discusses with a friend how much she relates to Elphaba's outcast status in a popularity and beauty-oriented environment. In addition, The Simpsons episode Donnie Fatso sees Homer Simpson and Moses Lark accidentally sneak into a Springfield production of the show. The South Park episode Broadway Bro-Down features Wicked and other musicals and have these shows contain subliminal messaging. In the episode these messages persuade women into performing oral sex upon their spouse or boyfriend. Defying Gravity was covered on the television series Glee in the Wheels episode where two of the characters are the main female Rachel Berry and a supporting male character Kurt Hummel competed for a lead role by singing the song. In a later episode titled New York, the two duet on the Gershwin stage and sing for good. During Season 5 Rachel, Kurt and Mercedes Jones all perform Defying Gravity again in honor of the show's 100th episode. On the show New Girl, Winston sings the songs Popular and Defying Gravity on a trip to Mexico. A clip of the song Popular also plays in the 2009 movie Zombieland. Entertainer John Barrowman sang a version of The Wizard and I on his 2008 UK tour, with adapted lyrics referring to his Doctor Who and Torchwood character Jack's affection for the Doctor. Kerry Ellis, who played Elphaba in the West End and the Broadway productions of Wicked, recorded a version of I'm Not That Girl, which appears on the 5th anniversary edition of the original Broadway cast recording. She also recorded her own rock version of Defying Gravity. Both songs were produced by British musician Brian May and were featured on her extended play Wicked in Rock and debut album Anthems. She performed her version of Defying Gravity at the 2008 Royal Variety performance alongside May on guitar. A dance remix of her rock version of Defying Gravity was later released in 2011. Louise Dearman, who has played both Elphaba and Glinda in the West End production, released an acoustic version of Defying Gravity for the Wicked edition of her album Here Comes the Sun. Her former co-star and London Elphaba Rachel Tucker also covered Defying Gravity as part of her 2013 debut album, The Reason. Rapper Drake sampled the musical's song Popular in his song of the same name. Singer Mika also sampled the song in his song Popular Song. American band Weakness released an EP, The Lightning EP, in their Pop, Songs and Death series that was inspired by Wicked with heavy influences throughout, including lyrics in Real Girl such as You Are the Perfect Color, Bright Green Lady with Elphaba and Scarecrow-like characters in the video. The cover art for the album was also bright green and included an Elphaba-style hat. Media as diverse as the anime series Red Garden, the daytime drama Passions and the Buffy the Vampire Slayer graphic novels have all parodied Wicked songs and characters. At the start of the second of 3 episodes of the miniseries, Tin Man, protagonist DG refers to her father as Popsicle Vice, the more common names Pop, or Pappy, echoing Glinda in her letter home at the start of What Is This Feeling? Also, in the second episode of the ABC family drama series Huge, one of the characters wears a Shiz University Athletic Department Tita shirt, while Wicked and its long lines have been mentioned in the Nickelodeon series iCarly. The Broadway musical Shrek the Musical parodies the show's act finale with, What's Up, Duloc? Character Lord Farquaad reenacts Defying Gravity by proclaiming No One's Gonna Bring Me Down, followed by the legato belt while atop his castle. the Oscar-winning song Let It Go from the successful 2013 Disney film Frozen, that also won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature, had been compared to Defying Gravity due to its similar theme and similar singing style, and was sung by the original Elphaba Idina Menzel. See also: Lists of musicals. References. External links. Official production sites: North America, UK, Japan, Netherlands, Singapore, Behind the Emerald Curtain. Official UK Facebook page, official UK Twitter profile, Wicked at the Internet Broadway database, Wicked inspires the theatre lovers, Wicked at Playbill Vault, Wicked at musicalschwartz.com, the official Stephen Schwartz fan site, Wicked a visual history curated by Michigan State University.